Welcome to another Creaky Gamers Battle Report. It's Warhammer the Old World.
Okay, g'day, how are you? I hope you are well. Welcome to another battle report. The mighty Orcs. My Orc Horde are on the table again. Just quickly go over my list. We've got the Great Keef on his Wyvern, the usual Talisman of Protection, Great Weapon, Trollhide Trousers, some little Night Goblin bosses. One of them's a BSB. I've got a War Boss this time with a Great Weapon as well. And my Orc Shaman with the Idol of Gork for the extra range on his spells. 3 units of Night Goblins and Black Orcs and a couple of big units of Orc Boys with Warbows. And we're facing the Dwarves, and it's a Dwarf Expeditionary force. And something different about this, well, he's got a hill to deploy on. As you can see, he's deployed on the hill. And he's got some sappers, so 2 sappers, I think, or these generals are sapper as well or something. Anyway, if I come within their command range, my units take dangerous terrain tests. So this whole plan is to sit on that hill and me to come into range and start taking dangerous terrain tests, which is an interesting concept. So we'll see if the Orcs can march across the table against the gunfire and knock the Dwarves off their hill. It's going to be a tough battle. We'll see what happens. Alright, so this is my unit of Night Goblins with short bows, and they're deployed way out on my right flank, so they're not going to take part in the battle at all. I didn't realise I should have twigged, but he was going to put his whole army on the hill. There's the Great Keef. He's sort of hiding out of line of sight of his grudge throwers and cannon. With my small unit of Night Goblins there, and there's the Black Orcs. And later on, I forget that the Black Orcs, I made them stubborn. So that in the end of the game, the Black Orcs cop a lot of shooting, and I forget that they're stubborn. I need to put a little note on them or something. I always forget they're stubborn. There's my Orc Boys. They've got the Spider Banner, so 30 Orc Boys with the Spider Banner, and my level 4 Shaman is there. And then I forgot I've got a unit of, I had 40 points left. I was going to put the Razor Banner on the other Orcs, but I bought a little unit of 10 Goblins skirmishing with short bows. They're kind of useless. There's the other unit of 30 Boys with, they've got like blunderbusses, and they count as having war bows. And there's my combat Night Goblins with the War Banner, and I've got my War Boss in there and my Battle Standard in there as well, I think. So that's the deployment. So we've got to march across the table into the Dwarves. So there's, after turn 1, I've sort of thrown the Great Keef up around this flank to threaten him, and pushed everyone up a little bit and done as much shooting as I could. I did get lucky, and I got, Gaze of Gork or something off on his cannon and did 1 wound, and then I shot the cannon again and did 1 wound later on. So I did have Evil Sun Shining up, which is a handy spell. I think I'm going to swap my Shaman over so he's got the Lore Familiar, so I can always have Evil Sun Shining, because it really helps my my Warbows, etc. So we just sort of moved up to surround the hill, and he's spreading out and shooting. We'll have a close look at the Dwarf army in a minute. Forgot to mention that he's got miners off the table. He's got a unit of 10 and a unit of 5 miners off the table. There's his cannon. So his cannon's only got 1 wound left. So I've done all right there. I'm pretty happy I've got it down to 1 wound. So maybe I can get rid of the cannon pretty quickly. And he had 2 units of these guys on the green tray there. They're rangers with crossbows. He had 2 units of them, but he scouted them onto his hill. So he didn't really need scout. He could have deployed them. And he's got a unit of dwarf warriors on that flank, 2 grudge throwers, and there's a Doom Slayer up the back there waiting for the Great Keef to come in and get his war machines. Doom Slayer, Doom Seeker, whatever he is. Anyway, I'm taking a few casualties from the grudge throwers and the shooting. I should talk about his main unit, which is a unit of handgunners. I think they are in the middle there with, he's got a runesmith with 3 runes of spell breaking. His battle standard and his general are in that unit. So that's his key unit. To try and break that, it's going to be pretty tough. Bit of combat resolution in there. They also have a 5-up ward save against things, and they get handled 6 up ward save to units around them and so on. Anyway, into turn 2, and I just decided to swing the Great Keef up around onto his flank. So the Great Keef's flown up onto the flank there to threaten everything. And I'm sneaking my mighty combat Night Goblins up this flank. They've got the War Banner and a Battle Standard in there and so on. So there's a bit of combat res in that little unit, and they do pretty well usually. So we'll see how they go this game. They're heading towards those ranges, and the rest of it I'm just doing some shooting, trying to remove. I removed his cannon. That's right. I got shot his cannon. So my shooting got rid of his cannon, so I don't have to worry about the cannon anymore, just the grudge throwers, and they're decimating my big block of Araboys with the shaman in there in the middle. But that's the situation after my turn 2. I've got some Night Goblins way out on my right flank which aren't going to do anything. And then as I get closer, he reminds me I've got to start taking dangerous terrain tests. So I start losing Black Orcs and so on to some of the dangerous terrain tests. And so the Great Keef's on that flank there. He's got his options to charge pretty much anyone he wants next turn. But I've got to be aware of combat resolution. He doesn't get away with it like he used to. He has to overcome a lot of combat res in those units and outnumbering, etc. for infantry. And so you've got some Night Goblins down here, and I've got some more off the picture there which aren't going to be in the battle at all. And I'm gradually losing more and more Araboys in the middle to the grudge throwers and the handgunners, whatever they are, whatever dwarves call the handgunners. Thunderers, that's it. That's what they are. All right, so then the Great Keef's in my turn, so we get up to about turn 3. I'm sending those Night Goblins up that left flank, doing a little bit of shooting. My useless little unit of goblins are just getting in the way. And so here the Great Keef goes into the flank of the warriors. He calls a warg, so he's got an extra combat resolution plus the flank. But this is the question, my rules question of the game. I didn't say anything because some people play it different ways, but he issued a challenge with his champion, so I had to. He had a runesmith in there as well, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, did. He had a sapper or something. Anyway, so the sapper could have moved through the ranks and accepted the challenge, but he accepted the challenge with his champion. And I give up on whether champions can move through the ranks. Some people are adamant that they can because they're heroes, and other people say no. Anyway, so his champion moved through the ranks and accepted the challenge. Anyway, you can let me know if you reckon champions can move through the ranks. I'm staying out of that argument now. Anyway, that was the situation. All right, so, and then there you go. See, my mighty combat goblins are getting into his ranges there. The Great Keef pushed the warriors back. He won that combat, and then his Doom Seeker Slayer, whatever he is, came running down the hill with extra charge, D3, etc., and got stuck into the Great Keef on the flank. So I'm fighting the outnumbering of the warriors and the Doom Seeker in the flank. So the Doom Seeker will probably have to issue a challenge there. And my mighty combat goblins are beating up rangers. So my combat goblins, they're going pretty well. I've got my Night Goblin War Boss in there and my Battle Standard. So they add a little bit more punch to them, plus the combat res. So they're going to beat up the rangers and run around there and start killing his grudge throwers. And he keeps concentrating his fire on my Araboys here, and which has got my level 4 Shaman in there. So they're taking heavy casualties. And I've still got plenty of Black Orcs there, but the dangerous terrain tests are going to whittle my Black Orcs down. So there's my mighty combat Night Goblins, I call them, with the War Banner. And they're beating up the Rangers. So they're going to beat up the Rangers, but they failed to catch them. So I think those Rangers might survive as I go after the War Machines. And there's the Great Keef fighting the Doom Seeker Slayer, whichever he is. And he's only got a couple of wounds, so he does one wound to the Great Keef, and then the Great Keef kills him. So that combat, epic combat, I thought the Doomseeker would have done better. And the warriors fall back in good order, ready to receive the charge from the remnants of the Black Orcs. There's not many Black Orcs on, and he's got his miners have come on behind me. So you can see he's got 10 miners there, 5 miners there. They come on behind my Araboys. So I'm going to have to turn around and deal with them. I can't have them charging me in the rear, so that sort of slows my advance. But my mighty combat goblins are going to break through here and then swing into his war machine. So those combat goblins are done pretty well. They end up right around the other side after overrunning, killing the war machines. But I'm having trouble getting rid of his big block. That's going to be the problem. And the dangerous terrain is killing me. I'm losing a few. Don't mind you losing a few goblins, but I've lost half my Black Orcs to dangerous terrain tests. So the Great Keith goes into those ranges and beats them up. And then the Black Orcs beat up his warriors and push them. They fall back in good order through everything. But I'm running out of Black Orcs. I did have 18 Black Orcs. And it's important that I probably should have remembered Stubborn, because they're going to get beat up by his big unit in a minute. So that was a bit of a problem. And I've only end up with about 3 Black Orcs left in the end anyway. So there's his big unit of Thunderers. They're doing pretty well, sitting on their hill, shooting everything, wearing us down. So I'm going to have to try and get in there and break them. Let's have a crack at them. And I've had to turn around here to deal with the miners. So the Arrow boys turned around here. I wish I had not wasted points on those 40 points on those goblin arrow archers there, those little short bow guys. I should have put the razor banner on the big unit there to give them a bit more punch, because they just don't seem to have enough AP. Or put a character in there or something. Maybe spend some points that way. Those night goblins out there did nothing all game. And my fanatics did nothing from my combat unit. Virtually nothing. Might have killed something. Probably did more damage to me than anything. And there's the Great Keith into the flank of his big unit of Thunderers, and the Black Orcs overran into them. So you can see I've only got 3 Black Orcs left. The Great Keith breaks from this combat because he's double outnumbered. And my Black Orcs, I should have pinned them in place because I was stubborn. Only 3 of them left, but stubborn would have been good. But the Black Orcs break, and the Great Keith runs over there through the goblins and everything. And the Black Orcs are running. There's only 3 of them left. So I have to make myself a reminder that I pay the extra 18 points to make them stubborn. And then his Thunderers overrun into my useless little unit of goblin arrow boys. And you can see my combat goblins are up on the hill, killing war machines, getting in behind everybody. So they've done pretty well. They've come right around here, beat up his rangers, and they've killed 1 grudge thrower, and then they're going to get into the other one, and then probably into the rear of the warriors. So they've done pretty well, that little combat unit. People tend to ignore them, and they've got fanatics to help out versus cavalry and stuff, so they've done okay. And I've had to turn around and actually my main unit of Arrow boys with the shaman, and they panicked eventually and ran. They weren't under 25%, so I got a chance to rally them. I did rally them. And there's my useless goblins getting beat up. Yeah, there's the shaman and his unit. They rallied. My Arrow boys here are having trouble getting rid of those miners. We beat them up, but we didn't actually kill them or anything. And there's his main unit, still intact, still sitting on their hill with the Runesmith and Battle Standard Bearer on there and everything. The Great Keith does rally. And then this is the last turn. He's just going to try and clean up my my combat unit. Yeah, there's the Orcs fighting the miners there, struggling to do much damage. I think we get them under half or something, but didn't do much there. And then he finally tries to get rid of my combat goblins. He gets some, whittles them down to like only half or something, but they've passed their panic test. And that's the end of the game. So it ends up being a minor victory to the Orcs. We couldn't quite crack his main unit. There's my combat goblins, only about 4 of them left or something. And these guys are struggling to beat up the miners. So that was it. All right, I probably misdeployed. I should have realised earlier that he was going to deploy on the hill, and compacted my deployment a bit more, so I had some more fanatics. I still had like 5 fanatics I didn't release at all during the game. And those dangerous terrain tests cost the Black Orcs quite a bit. And probably should have concentrated trying to kill that sapper in that unit, which would have saved me a few Black Orcs. But that's 2020 hindsight. I'd never faced the Expeditionary force with those sappers and the dangerous terrain tests. But that's the Dwarves for you. You give them a hill and they'll go and sit on it. but the boys did okay. We took the fight to them and just killed the peripheral units. We just couldn't quite crack the big unit. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Well, that was different. Yep, lousy, but different.